Oh, it's that time, Nerd Castle. Sunless Sea Zubmariner. I got my key this week. I got it. I saw it in my email from the developers over at Failbetter, and I was just like, oh, this week just got poppin', which is good because I haven't really been super stoked about a lot of the releases lately, and it's nice to have some enthusiasm about something. So Sunless Sea, bumpin'. Really excited about this. Sunless Sea is one of those games like Mount & Blade for me that every year or so I go back and I play it for like 90 hours straight and my life just disappears and I ruin everything in my personal life, and then I come out just a bearded, stinky mess, but I just bathed in the waters of Sunless Sea. And so anyways, if you never played Sunless Sea before, it's kind of like a dark Victorian, it's a weird game. It's like Sid Meier's Pirates meets dark Victorian Cthulhu. It's all kinds of weird things mixed together. So anyways, here we are. Let's play a new game, shall we? Yes, I would love to start a new game. Submariner! So in this one, we can actually convert our boat into a sub that goes underwater. Now, they said that this game makes modifications to the original Sunless Sea experience as well. And so we're going to be playing the whole thing from front to end. And you know what? I was pretty good at this game about 6 months ago. That was the point at which I was farming out like all the different colors and things like that you can get under. And I actually pretty sure I beat the game at one point or another. But we'll have to check this out and see what's going on. Captain's Making. So we can either choose a past or we can have a past that is wreathed in shadows. I find the game to be more satisfying if you choose a path. So that's what we're going to do. So you now have a lodge in a room above the blind helmsman. Good. Alright, so who were you? You're a captain now, but you belong to the Unterzee. So who were you before? We would like to be a veteran of the campaign of 68. It's one of the better choices that you can make. Now, there is an argument to be made about gaining mirrors. But in general, so there's a couple thoughts here when you start the game out. Taking the pages bonus is pretty good because it's kind of hard to level up pages sometimes. Some characters have a rough time leveling up pages. Pages is your skill of trickery and intelligence. And so the game is divided into pages, mirrors, irons, hearts, and something else. So hearts is your health and your courage. Pages is your intelligence. Veils is your ability to do subterfuge and things related to that, so basically dexterity. Mirrors is your ability, like wisdom, to detect and perceive things. And then iron is your ability to just kick ass and take names. Irons is by far the most useful, 100%. If you're trying to have a game that you use your main stat all the time. So the one that we pick here gets a plus 20, essentially. It makes us really, really good at it right off the bat. Not like amazingly good. Like 60 is a good score in a stat, but it still makes you pretty good. And so, if you've got our irons of 45, you reload faster, you aim better, you fight better, and a lot of things want to kill you in this game, so it tends to be a good choice, so that's what we're going to do. You fought in the invasion of hell. London's army is lost, but you survived. Your loot and your pension have brought you a command. Okay. You fought in the invasion of hell, so they will not trifle with you. You promised a job to your acquaintance, the Shady Cook, and he'll do until you find someone less disgusting. You were a weary soldier, now you're a Z captain. Your stranger quality is gone. We've gained 20 echoes, which is the coin and currency in Fallen London. Got 25 irons. Oh, I thought it was plus 20. So we're up to 50 right now, which is pretty good. We got the Shady Cook. The Shady Cook fills in one of our slots over here. You've got a surgeon, a gunnery officer, a chief engineer, a first officer, and a cook. Regardless of how big your ship is, that's what you've got, and you get ones of different qualities you get further into the game. They'll get stronger and stronger and stronger as you also level them up, too. There's kind of each character has its own storyline, and as you get further and further along their storyline, they get stronger and stronger and better. Or some of them get worse and worse before, like, peeking out and exploding. Some of them die. Some of them, there's a lot of different storylines, and actually that's one of my favorite things about this game is trying to complete all the different tasks that you have. We also have a comatose ferret. And so I think that Avik probably has something to do with this. I don't know why you'd bring a Tuberat on a boat, but I guess we have a Tuberat on our boat now. That's what I call ferrets. Tuberats. Not a rodent fan. Actually, I love rats. I'm just kidding. It's because I like rats, not ferrets. I love rats. They're the best. Alright, so what does winning mean to you? This game is actually kind of an interesting game in that it lets you choose your win criteria. Normally, this is something limited to grand strategy games, but in the case of Sunless Sea, this is something that you've wanted your entire life. Later on, actually, I've done the Private Kingdom one before. You can actually find an island in the game, and then you can develop it as your own kingdom if you want. But your father's bones. Your father was lost at sea. You never knew him, but you've often dreamed of him. Find and return his remains to London for a decent burial. We can go with Immortality, which appears to be a new one. This appears to be a new win criteria. I don't know if that's from Submariner or from a patch since I played last, I guess, about Christmas time was the last time I played this game. So it could be either or. Fulfillment. Yeah, I remember it was Christmas time the last time I played this because I had Christmas lights up in my house. Fulfillment. Gather 100 tales. This one you have to write a book, and so you'll collect stories. This one is a while. Wealth, not that difficult. Wealth is also a good one. You know how it is to be poor. Now you want a mansion, servants, fine clothes, and a family, perhaps. Let's go with Immortality. It's new, and I'd like to check it out. I've mostly completed Father's Bones, and I've mostly completed Wealth, and so I'd like to do Immortality. The Presbyteriate guards its secrets fiercely, but amidst the clamor and beer stains of the blind helmsman, a salt-scarred navigator is telling tales of the continent's deepest interior, of a city called Nida, where the origin of the presbyter's long life. Where is he getting his information? Bring wine. He is susceptible to wine. You will find the navigator in your first clue in London. And so our ambition is now to liberate the secret of immortality. The last scrap of paperwork, Captain. Captain, an irregularity within the harbor master's office. They want to know what term of address should you prefer ashore. This will determine what people call you. It could be Madam, Sir, Citizen, My Lord, My Lady, Captain. My Lord. Perhaps you do come from a noble family. Who's to know? A pleasure to welcome you on board, my lord. Last piece of advice. Explore, take chances. This captain will probably die. The sea is hungry, but each captain passes on lessons to the next. And so what's interesting about this game is you can have a family, a wife, a lover, children, and your children will take over your charge if you die, and you get all kinds of bonuses. And based on what you've accumulated during your life, when you die, you start out with new bonuses when you go into your next game. And so let's say that you have a really, really badass, like, tier 4 ship that's just like a battle cruiser or whatever. You can transfer that over to your next guy when you die if you have the proper prerequisites taken care of, i.e. you've made sure that you filed all the proper paperwork and done the storylines to make sure that you have a will and testament. We have to pick our, my lord. Who looks like my lord? I normally just go with this one right here because he's scraggly. He's got a half mask on, though. He will be, he will be Dabbledonga. There we go. It's a pretty, I could get down with that. I got my Gerard Butler, like, Phantom of the Opera. I got it covered. Ambition. Death hath no more dominion. The Blind Helmsman is a wolf-stack institution, a centuries-old pub held together by a crust of fry smoke and the nautical mementos nailed to the walls. So I need a cask of mushroom wine in order to complete this storyline. So we won't do that right now. We don't want to do the... Actually, the Submariner tutorial might not be a terrible idea. Advice for captains doesn't much matter. What I would do is I would sell advice for captains to get the 50 echoes. And so there it is. We got $50 more. We need to buy fuel. We have 10 fuel for right now, and I think we max out at 20 or something like that. Our hull is 75 out of 75. We basically start out with like a little tugboat cutter. Supplies are often a good decision as well. But we've got a passenger. Who is this? We can carry an unsettled salvager to Venderblight. She visits Wolfstack every day in Z-stained rags, begging for passage. No captain will look her in the eye. She embraces you. I'd kiss you, but my beloved is prone to jealousy. We were parted, but the ancient captains at Venderblight will know where she is. Okay, so there it is. She visits Wolfstack, and she's looking for her beloved. And so we're sailing to Venderblight, which I think is to the north, as I recall. We can go to our lodgings. I would suggest that you read the morning papers. If you read the morning papers, you occasionally get coupons to make things cheaper, free stuff, and then most importantly, you get recent news. Now, this is Victorian times, and so news does not travel quickly. And so if you've got recent news, you can trade it for things on the various islands that are extended, the colonies that are farther away from London. You want to hold your recent news very, very tightly because it can be a good thing to give away in certain situations in order to save yourself. The Echo Bazaar, the enigmatic marketplace, has increased its tax on love stories. Love stories are illegal, I thought, in fallen London, but I could be wrong. The traitor empress is forbidden singing in the street outside of her palace. The anarchists of the Calendar Council have inexplicably dynamited a drinking fountain. The Ministry of Public Decency has located and destroyed a nest of gallbladder wasps. And so we don't have a study because we haven't bought a house yet. We're staying just up above basically an inn right now. Back to the city. I would go to the Admiralty Survey Office next. They'll pay for information from Z captains, find out what and how. The Admiralty's picket fleets and intelligence networks are long gone. The survey office pays Z captains a small sum for recent information. And so we can go to different ports and colonies, and we can spy basically while we're there. And if we bring the information back, we get paid. They also give you a mission that pays off pretty well if you know what you're doing. And so anyways, we'll take that mission first. This port, speak to our agent there and return. We'll see that you're rewarded. And so, strategic information from the Iron and Misery Company funging station, somewhere not far from our home waters. That's actually a pretty easy mission. That's not bad at all. A lot of the things in this game are randomly generated, so be aware. Random generation leads to things sometimes. Sometimes you get really hard missions early on in this game, and it's just part of the story. Go with it. All right, so we don't have an appointment. We can leave the Admiralty back onto Foggy Street. The University, we don't have a antiquarian favor yet, so we can't go to the University. Wolfstack Docks doesn't matter yet. We can hire on more crew. How many crew are we running right now? We're running 8 out of 10, so we don't need that. That is a courage challenge. Put your ship in the dry dock if you really want, or we can offer passage to a tomb colonist of Venderblight. We're already going there, so absolutely. It's oddly difficult to die in Fallen London, but when a Londoner is too tatty and wretched to live, they wrap themselves in bandages and take ship for the tomb colonies. Your crew cart these ones aboard in padded coffins. They'll sleep there until the journey is done. And so we have a tomb colonist. Hooray. But yeah, it's hard to die underground. So basically what happened is London sunk into a sinkhole, and there's this entire sea underneath where London used to be, and hell exists here, and there's all kinds of random weird things that go on. Essentially nothing makes sense in this world. It's all very, very confusing. I'm somewhat privy to it because I've played a lot of Fallen London in the past. I haven't played it recently, but I did play it a lot at one point or another, and I still maintain a subscription to it, actually, just in case I ever want to go back. We have the Matilda Briggs. It's a tramp steamer. Okay. If we wanted to buy a new ship, what I would suggest is that you go for the Forced class next. The Forced class is pretty good. The Maynard is quite good as well. It really just depends what you want to go after. Most people will jump into the Forced next. Yeah, I think you lose some, like, trade capacity in here. Yeah, you're going to lose hold capacity, I think. But in exchange, you get more crew quarters, the hull is higher, and it's got 2 guns, and it gives you a fighting bonus, which is pretty cool. Oh, nope, we don't want that at all. That's not what I wanted, and it used up my fuel. Damn it. All right, so in London, let's go back for the Unterzee tutorial. Welcome, delicious friends. So, how to use your submarine. How to acquire a submarine. Her Majesty's Admiralty has sworn off submarine exploration. However, you've heard tales of unofficial research into submarine travel being conducted in her distant colony. Okay. Travel to the southern coast and follow it east to find Port Carnelian. There, you will learn how to convert your ship into a submarine. Be sure that you're prepared for the journey. Okay, so I know where Port Carnelian is, kind of. I know in the realm of where it's at. It's been a long time since I played last, but I've got a rough idea. I would suggest we take a decent amount of fuel and quite possibly some supply for the journey ahead. And then from there, it's time for us to embark. Let's launch the ship and be on our way. There's a number of things you need to know. You can actually spike the engine if you really, really want to make the ship go faster. It's up to you. You can do that. I also think somewhere in here we can toggle the lights off, which I would recommend. It makes your insanity go up quicker, but if you stay near these lights, it'll save you fuel in the long run. And as long as we stay within sight of shore, we shouldn't gain insanity, which is this meter right here. Terror, that is. I've got the wrong thing. So we're going to head north first to Venderblight. I think that's what I'd like to do first. I'm going to do my best to stay near shore this entire time. We can send out a Z-Bat. The Z-Bat will help us find cool stuff. We can repair our ship. We can go full power to the engines if we want. There's lots of fun stuff that we can do here. I will try to sweep back around here. I don't think that we should need to turn on the lights. Instead, we'll make port right here. So at Hunter's Keep, a hump of dark rock swathed in mist, like 100 other Unterzee islands, but here's a grand house, windows aglow, lawns impossibly green and lush in the fall starlight, raked gravel paths. You stand on the dock as the sea nudges the ship's sides, an unexpectedly warm breeze carries the faintest trace of lavender. Let's go ahead and reconnoiter the island. And so there it is. Ships rarely come here, and nothing changes, even the weather. The house is the heart of the isle, the house and the sisters, but the Admiralty may be happy to know that nothing's changed, at least. Let's also spy on the house. We got a 75% chance of success there. Oh, I failed in the challenge. You peer through a half-open French window into a grand parlor, grand in size if a little reduced in style by dust and neglect. A dark-haired, pale-skinned young woman bends earnestly over a piano keyboard. Another fair-haired but unmistakably her sister sprawls on the sofa with a book. A third sits by the fireplace staring sorrowfully into the embers. A log pops, and the woman by the fire gives a violent start. You cannot restrain a start of your own, and her eyes meet yours through the glass. She clasps her hand to her mouth in shock. There is nothing to do but step apologetically into the room. "A visitor," the pianist, the youngest cries. The next youngest chuckles. The eldest, who you frighten, sighs, "Excuse us. Visitors are rare, and you're very welcome. I'm Cynthia. The noisy one is Phoebe, and the cheerful one is Lucy. You're in good time for lunch. Will you join us?" And so we can actually seduce them with news. And so even though the sisters aren't feeling sociable, they can be tempted out of their lair by the smell of new stories. So there it is. You ask the sulfuride maid to carry a few hints of your news to the sisters. Oddly enough, she comes back with a message that their headaches are cured and you're invited to lunch. We can meet with Cynthia. She's melancholic, pensive, and occasionally dramatic. We can go with the cheery sister or the sunny sister, or we can go with the watchful and unpredictable sister. Let's go with the cheery sister first. Lucy leans over and whispers to you confidentially a complex story about a butler, a pig, and an inheritance. You don't follow all the details of the plot, but somehow the pig ends up in the attic and the butler in a vicar's bed. Candles flicker, dishes enter and leave, and the wind butts gently at the window panes. By the time the plum pudding arrives, you're as cheerful as you've been in months. So we now have Stone's attention. They're gods of the sea, so there's Storm, Stone, and Salt, I think, are the three gods of the sea. And you want their attention. Having their attention is a good thing. If you lose their attention, it means they're not watching out for you, exceptionally. We've also gained some free supplies, and we've lost 20 hunger, which is good. We didn't have that much hunger to begin with, but, you know. The sisters are not receiving visitors. They're indisposed now. Let's go ahead and launch. The lamps are on. The lamps will make it so that your terror goes up slower when you're out of sight of certain things. We are traveling at our fullest speed right now, but if we can stay within sight of land, we can keep terror nice and low. And over time, this is something that will stack up on you, so I would suggest that you do your best to keep it low. We will be avoiding combat as much as possible. What is that right there? That is a pirate pinnace. Okay. Let's go ahead and load up. I'm going to try and keep this thing out of our firing lines if I can. Ooh, he fired at us. Little bastard. Okay. And if we can stay far enough back, we can maintain fire on him fairly easy. The ship is yours, and what will you do with her? Loot and scuttle her? She's a vile old vessel, and the Z's aren't safe. Take what you can and move on. These pinnaces don't sail far from their hidden harbors, but there's something in the back of the hold. We now have a cache of curiosities. A stout crate. Upon opening it, coke. Like coal, but more so as the Department of Infernal Rarefactions would have it. We got 2 free fuel. Not bad at all, considering we wanted the length of our journey to be somewhat longer. I prefer, you want to be away from shore as much as possible. You only want to make port when you've got something to gain, essentially. Now, as time goes along, we'll gain a thing called fragments. Every time you gain a certain amount of fragments, you will gain what is essentially a level. This meter right here fills up all the way. You get a thing called a secret or something like that, which you can trade for stat upgrades, or you can turn it in for events and things of that nature to advance your career as a captain. And actually, we've gotten an insight right there. Oh, we've gained a secret, so now we can speak to our officers to improve our stats, if we so desire it. I'm going to leave the lamp on for a moment here. I'm going to travel to the north. We will go after Port Carnelian. I do want to get to the Submariner upgrades as soon as possible, but we got little tasks we want to complete, and we have very little money on board right now. And so not having a whole lot of echoes is kind of a dangerous proposition for a Z captain, because you can essentially starve at sea, or run out of fuel or anything else you might need in order to make things work out for you. Let's pull into port, and we are in Vendor Blight, delicious friends. You've brought this decaying emigrant north. Now what? Your passenger has been drinking. Ahoy, she chortles. Defend yourself. She launches a tipsy assault. Your crew hangs back chuckling. Thanks, crew. It's a straightforward challenge because we're good at iron, so we're going to fight her. Tomb colonists have a lifetime of bitter experience, and some of them are the deadliest combatants under the earth. Possibly this one is when she hasn't drunk quite so much rum. You'll never know. She salutes you, laughing after you disarm her. Good fight, she opines. Then she staggers backwards and falls over the side. You never do find out what happened to her, but at least you have her rather magnificent cavalry saber and her belongings. You brought her here. That's the end of the story. We got an outlandish artifact, which is very, very valuable. Hold on to those. They can be useful. You've gained 1 free iron, so we've leveled up our irons, and we got free supplies. In addition, we should have fine ancient captains to speak to the unsettled salvager. It shouldn't be too hard. What else have they got to do around here but molder? An assortment of decrepit Z captains gathers around her, compelled by tradition, honor, or boredom. She picks her nails, closes her eyes, and then at last she speaks. I want to find Lady Black. The captains that can run do. The rest shuffle away as swiftly as they're able. Only one remains behind. How long were you down there, he asks. 20 minutes, she replies. The captain puts his hand on her shoulder. Seek the house of the keel in Polythreme, he says. But if you can forget her, do. It's possible. He embraces her and departs. We are now bound for Polythreme. Polythreme can be in a lot of places, so we may not find Polythreme for a while. Polythreme is essentially an island where everything is alive, as I recall. So the cups are alive, your pants are alive, the clouds are alive. Everything in Polythreme is kind of undulating and screaming and generally just crying out as though in pain. Let's see, we've got an event here that I've never seen before called Assist the Specialized Collector. We'll have to come back for that one because we don't have Submarine. So maybe we should do Submarine first rather than later. Here they favor candlelight over gaslight. The shadows are swagged like cobwebs. The tomb colonists stand still enough to be mistaken for sculpture until they laugh or cough. One building in 3 seems abandoned. You pause for refreshment at a Hungarian cafe. The coffee is dusty and the pastries a little stale, but the gaggle of decaying violin players are skilled and surprisingly sprightly. They play Eat Our Hearts, My Darling, The King is Tall Tall, Pop Goes the Weasel with brio and conviction. Then they start on The Old Dark Ocean Under the Void and you realize the time, your ship awaits you. We got A Memory of Distant Shores. That's actually pretty good too. It's kind of like recent news. You can trade it for good stuff. And is there anything else going on here? Yes, we can visit the curator. Who's plotting what? Here in the tomb colonies. Along the coast of the Unterzee, it's remarkably hard to die. The decrepit and nearly dead who leave London become tomb colonists and settle here in bandaged peace. But they don't give up their ties to home or their politics. You gather a haul of complex clues enough to keep your contacts in London interested. You now have one of Port Report, Venderblight. Good, and so we've spied there and we've come to fruition. Z Captains, the first curator gives audience. The first curator is responsible for the preservation of the tomb colonies. It has been here much longer than London, like all the oldest tomb colonists, but even tomb colonists dissolve in the end. Its time is close. No more light, the obsequious steward cautions you. The curator is terribly afraid of moths. He opens the door and you step into near darkness. A pair of luminous lamplighter bees buzz in latticed ivory tubes. There is no other source of light. A bandage shaped no longer than a child lies crumpled on a couch. It lifts its head with obvious effort. It takes several seconds for you to distinguish its voice from the soft buzz of the bees. So he's got a whispered request. Z Captain, Silkskin. There is not much left of me, and I will go into the Grand Sanatorium. Bring me colors, 7 colors. Pay well. Cosmogone, Irigo, Pelican. The steward has a list. Find them here, across the wide Black Sea. Okay, and we can accept the charge. It collapses, rustling back to the couch. Even the effort of speaking seems to have diminished it a little. The audience is over. As the door opens, it shrinks from the finger of light that reaches across the floor. Outside, the obsequious steward nods. The book? Yes, the book. Hands you a slim illustrated volume. The curator is old as dust. We'll all be grateful if you do it this one last favor. And so we now have the Neathbow. And our goal is now to look throughout the oceans for colors that don't exist in the overland. They only exist in the Unterzee and bring them back. And so Violent, Viric, Pelican, Irigo, Gaunt, Cosmogone, and Apocean are now things that we will look for as we go about. And each time we turn one in, we'll be gifted a great treasure. I think we're solid here. Let's go ahead and walk away. We'll be heading northwards to, I forget the name of the town, but we'll be going north. We're just about out of time for right now, but I think we have time to make the voyage. As we get more northward, it will get slightly more dangerous on the Unterzee, but I don't fear. I feel as though we've probably got a pretty good chance at surviving if we use our, it's F for us to put all power to the engines. If we use our engines properly, we should be all right. If the engines are used too frequently, however, at full bore, they will explode, killing a number of the crew, so watch out for that as a potential side effect of your indiscretions when stomping the pedal to the metal, as it were, stoking the engines to the throat. The boreal reach. Is it snow? Touch it and it puffs to vapor. Your crew huddles close to the warmth of pipe and funnel. That right there is a lifeberg. We can fight it, but I would wait till later. The lifeberg can drop some very, very majestic treasures, but for right now it's risky to fight a lifeberg. Instead, what I would do is I would wait until we have a particular treasure that allows us to fire our guns twice at once. At that point, killing it becomes a little bit easier, especially if you've taken especially if you've taken irons as your starting stat. For right now, our terror is receding as we go under the arch. We found it, which gave us 50 fragments. You want to view, in the early game, you want to find as many new things as possible, like wither, ports. As you unlock them, you'll get fragments, and you'll level up a whole bunch of times. And once you've got like 15 secrets, you can cash them in for things that you think are useful. All right. A chilly city beside the waste of salt. Behind the great arch over the bay, the pale wastes stretch, white and silent as the face of the moon. From here, you might almost imagine they were snow. North of the city, the salt pools fizz with unlikely color. You can explore the town. Wither is a quiet, chilly town of gray stone and closed courtyards. The people are neither exactly unfriendly nor exactly hospitable. They have the irritating habit of answering a question with a question, and here and there are odd sights tucked away. So we can, who'll try, who'll buy? A street vendor turns skewers on a grill. The mixed scents are nothing like anything sold in London. You could try troglodyte prawns if you so dare. Or if you've got something, well, you've got courage, you could try something more mysterious, tyrant's treat. Or shredded jellyfish. We don't have much of a chance of success there, so prawns it is. You've lost 2 terror, gained a fragment, and lost 5 hunger, which is now 19 replete. And that is all. Tangy and toothsome, walk on, chewing cheerfully. We also want to go back. And at Wither, we would want to gather intelligence. The citizens of Wither enjoy questions, so much so, they always answer a question with another question. This can make intelligence gathering somewhat frustrating. Are you asking for any particular reason? At what time of day? Is that your hat? Might it be 6? It could be 6. Eventually you cobble together enough implication and supposition to compose a report. So there it is. We've been up to Wither. And Wither no longer holds any secrets for us. So we'll be out and on the sea. To the north, there are some interesting things that we could find. I would kill the lights for right now so that we can save our fuel. Our hunger is looking pretty good, so we're not going to need any supplies for quite some time. We found the Odinson Straits, which has already been added to our list, and we, my friends, are out of time for right now. If you haven't checked it out, definitely check out Fallen London. It's a fun little game. It's a browser-based game that I think some people will enjoy. The ship's engines are laboring against the salt, which now clog them. Let's go ahead and turn south, I guess, until we can get out of that. I don't want to burn up any more of our supply trying to travel. Instead, we may tempt the Lifeberg. I don't think he'll be able to make with us so early. Actually, he might. Let me go ahead and stoke the engines here. He's actually identified us, which is a bit of a terrifying thing to know. But instead of panicking, we're going to go ahead and we found Puckridge's Lookout. There's lots of things up north that could help you out. What we need to do is we need to duck past the Lifeberg, otherwise we won't make it. However, for right now, we're locked onto only 1 as our speed. And so if we can't make it out of the salt, which you can see right here, there's a barrier, we may find ourselves... I don't think the Lifeberg can kill us in 1 hit. So I'm going to make for south. We've also found Codex, which is a place that we can stop on into, which I think would be a good plan for right now. Normally what I end up doing is I cut into Codex. And once I've cut into Codex, I'll cut north around the storms. And I don't think we're going to be fighting a Lifeberg for right now. It seems like folly, and I don't think that it's an enemy that we can handle. It's risky. It's very, very risky without the double shot. It can be done, don't get me wrong. It's just something that I would avoid. So let's pull into Codex. We'll grab our final intelligence, and this is going to be the end of our episode. My name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here for the first episode of Sunless Sea Zubmariner. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. A little bit of a reintroduction to the world. We'll go south in the next episode to Carnelian and see if perhaps we can find ourselves a submarine, all right? See y'all later. Hi-do, everyone.